The morning opened like a soft whisper over the sleepy town, sunlight painting gold across the rooftops, while the wind carried the perfume of wet grass. Somewhere in that quiet rhythm of life, a heart waited to be written into a story. It belonged to a girl whose dreams still glowed with innocence, whose soul believed that love was the language of eternity. She woke with the birds, she smiled at the light, she breathed with hope, unaware that life was about to test every part of her belief. The town lived slowly, as if time itself liked to linger here. The cobblestone streets still remembered laughter from years ago. The river that cut through the valley hummed its steady hymn, and among all this, her days bloomed gently like the first flowers of spring. She believed in beginnings. She believed that goodness always found its way back. She believed that every heart carried a story written by fate. Her life felt simple, soft, and endlessly waiting for something that would make it glow. Then one day, that something arrived. It came quietly, hidden in the ordinary, disguised as chance. The air smelled of rain that afternoon, the kind of rain that carries both sadness and promise. She stood beneath the trembling sky, clutching her books, when destiny brushed past her like a breeze. That first moment of connection was nothing dramatic, just two strangers caught in the same rain. But sometimes, the smallest meetings hold the biggest consequences. She felt something shift, an invisible line beginning to draw between two souls that had never met before. Days turned into weeks, and the invisible line grew stronger. She started noticing small things she never had before, the echo of footsteps behind her, a voice that lingered like a melody, the warmth of a smile that seemed to reach beyond words. Her heart learned a new rhythm. The world looked brighter, the mornings felt lighter, and suddenly every small thing carried meaning. Even the wind seemed to whisper her name differently. The universe, she thought, was finally answering her quiet wish. Love, when it arrives, rarely announces itself. It hides in gestures, in the space between glances, in the silence that somehow feels full. She found herself drawn toward that silence, curious, trembling, alive. And in that delicate space, she began to dream not just about life, but about someone who made living feel infinite. There was no lightning, no thunder, just a slow unfolding of emotion, gentle as dawn spreading across the sea. Every new day became a page, and she filled it with unspoken hope. She walked through familiar corridors, with unfamiliar excitement, feeling as though her heart had discovered music for the first time. The world outside continued as usual, bells ringing, leaves falling, but inside her, a whole new season had begun. The season of believing that love could be perfect. The season that promised forever without ever saying the word. In the weeks that followed, everything seemed touched by magic. Coffee tasted sweeter, sunsets burned deeper, and laughter came easier. She moved through her days as if a secret light followed her, a glow only she could see. The world, she thought, was finally aligning itself to her heart. Every moment felt like a promise. Every heartbeat whispered that this was only the beginning. She wrote about it in her journal. Not names, not events, just feelings. Pages filled with the language of emotion, words that tried to capture the vastness of something too beautiful to define. She didn't know that love, while it builds dreams, also prepares the stage for heartbreak. She didn't know that even the brightest stars cast shadows. She didn't know that sometimes the same wind that carries the scent of roses can also bring storms. But for now, she didn't need to know. All she needed was the warmth of the moment, the way hope wrapped itself around her like a blanket. Life felt like a song, one she wanted to play forever. The days turned golden, and she floated inside them with gentle surrender. Each morning felt like a new verse, each night like a soft echo of gratitude. She was in love with love itself. People around her noticed the change. They saw the light in her eyes, the way her voice softened when she spoke about the future, the quiet joy that colored her every step. The world could sense what she felt. Happiness has a way of announcing itself even when we try to hide it. And so, her life became a garden of small joys. Yet even gardens have shadows. The first signs of distance are often invisible. It starts with moments too small to notice, a hesitation, a silence too long, a promise delayed. She didn't see them then. She was too busy believing in perfection. When someone believes deeply, They forget to doubt. When someone loves purely, they forget that people can change. She was living inside a dream built from faith, and faith can be the most dangerous illusion of all. Time kept moving, slow but steady. The days of laughter began to thin, replaced by long pauses that didn't make sense. The warmth that once felt endless began to flicker. But love, true or not, teaches patience. She waited, because waiting felt like loyalty. She hoped, because hoping felt like love. She smiled even when her heart whispered warnings, because she still believed in the goodness she had seen. The heart, after all, does not stop easily. It keeps trying long after the mind understands the truth. It keeps reaching for the same warmth even after the fire has gone out. She kept walking the same road, blind to the cracks beneath her feet, holding onto memories that began to fade with every step. Still, she refused to give up. Love, she thought, is not about perfection, it's about faith. She believed that storms pass, that distance heals, that love always finds its way home. What she didn't realize was that some storms don't pass, they reveal. And when they do, they show not what was hidden, but what was never real. The first real pain arrived quietly. It came in the form of absence, days without messages, nights without goodbyes, mornings without warmth. The silence that followed was heavy, not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that speaks louder than words, that tells you something has changed even when nothing has been said. She tried to fill that silence with hope, but hope has limits. It can only hold you for so long before it starts to break. She began to question herself. Maybe she expected too much. Maybe she was too emotional, too sensitive, too much of everything. But that's how heartbreak works. It turns love into self-doubt. It makes you wonder if you were ever enough. It makes you rewrite the story to protect the person who hurt you. She tried to do that too, because believing in a lie was easier than facing the truth. But truth, like the morning, always finds a way in. And it arrived the day she saw what her heart feared the most. One glance, one frozen moment, one silent heartbreak, and everything she believed in crumbled. The dreams she had built, the promises she had held close, all shattered like fragile glass. Her world tilted, and in the quiet after the fall, she realized something deep and painful. Sometimes love is not a blessing, it's a lesson. She walked home beneath a sky heavy with rain. Each drop felt like memory. Each step felt like goodbye. The road blurred, her vision blurred, everything blurred except the ache inside her chest. When she reached home, she didn't cry at first. She just sat in the dark, listening to the sound of rain against the window. The world outside kept moving, unaware that. The days that followed carried a strange stillness, a silence that was neither empty nor full. It was the kind of silence that comes after storms, when everything looks the same, but nothing feels familiar. She moved through her house like a shadow, touching the same objects, walking the same paths, but each step felt heavier. The world outside continued its rhythm, indifferent to the quiet transformation happening inside her heart. She began to see things differently, not through the eyes of innocence, but through the lens of truth. Love, she realized, is not always gentle. It can lift you to the sky, and it can also break your wings. It can make you feel like the universe is built just for you, and it can also make you question your worth. She had lived both sides now, the dream and the destruction, and that knowledge changed something deep within her. She no longer looked for reasons or explanations. Some endings do not come with closure. Some wounds heal only when we stop asking why. Each morning, she woke up and reminded herself to breathe. The mirror became her first test. Every time she looked into it, she saw both the girl who believed and the woman who had survived. The difference between them was not age or time. It was understanding. She now knew that love does not fail because of one person. It fails when trust becomes blind and care becomes control. She had trusted without limits, and now she was learning to love with boundaries. Her days became quiet but purposeful. She started reading again, walking again, smiling again. Each small act felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. People thought she had moved on, but healing is never that simple. Healing hides behind ordinary things, in the sound of boiling water, the rhythm of footsteps, the hum of distant traffic. Healing is slow, invisible, but it moves quietly through the heart until one day you realize you are no longer carrying the same weight. Still, there were nights when the memories returned. The sound of laughter that no longer belonged to her. The warmth of moments that had turned cold. Memory is a ghost that knows the way back home. It arrives uninvited, sits beside you, and reminds you of what was lost. But she no longer fought it. She learned to sit with her pain, to let it speak and fade. The heart cannot be rushed. It unfolds in its own time. Months passed. Seasons changed. The trees outside her window turned from green to gold to bare, and with each passing season, her reflection grew steadier. She began to see her heartbreak, not as an ending, but as an education. It had taught her what love should never feel like. It had shown her that loyalty without honesty is just silence, wearing a smile. She understood now that real love does not demand that you shrink. It asks that you grow. Her friends tried to bring color back into her world. They took her to coffee shops, to art galleries, to quiet parks where sunlight filtered through branches. She listened, smiled, and tried to be present. Some days she succeeded, other days she drifted. Healing is not a straight line. It bends, it repeats, it forgets, it begins again. But she kept moving, step by step, because even broken hearts remember how to walk. One afternoon, she found herself in the old library where everything had once begun. The same shelves, the same smell of paper and dust, the same quiet hum of turning pages. Yet she was not the same. The girl who once believed that forever was guaranteed had become a woman who understood that forever is a choice, made every day by two people who refused to give up. She no longer felt bitterness. She felt distance, the calm acceptance that some stories are meant to end so that others can begin. She picked a book from the shelf, opened it, and a small pressed flower fell out. She didn't know who had left it there or how long it had been waiting, but the sight of it made her smile. Time, she thought, preserves what truly matters. The rest simply fades. She placed the flower back and whispered a silent promise to herself, to live, to love again, but differently this time. Not with blind faith, but with open eyes. Not with fear, but with wisdom. As the sun began to set, she walked home through streets that glowed orange and gold. The same streets that once witnessed her heartbreak now carried her quiet strength. She had walked this path before in tears. Now she walked it in peace. People crossed her path. Lives intertwined for a second, then drifted apart again. She realized that everyone carried invisible stories, moments of joy, loss, and survival. She was not alone in her pain. Everyone was healing from something. In the evenings, she started writing again, not about love or loss, but about courage. Her words flowed like water, honest and unguarded. She didn't write to be read. She wrote to remember. Each sentence became a step toward herself, each paragraph a new heartbeat. The blank page became her mirror, reflecting who she was becoming. She no longer wrote about forever. She wrote about now, about being alive, about learning to be whole without needing anyone to complete her. The nights were softer now. She sat by the window, watching the stars, feeling no bitterness toward the past. Forgiveness is not about excusing what happened. It is about freeing yourself from carrying it. She understood that. She forgave not because he deserved it, but because she deserved peace. The chains that once held her were gone, replaced by quiet acceptance. The heart she thought was broken beyond repair was now stronger than ever, not because it had never been hurt, but because it had survived the hurt. Time moved differently now. Days no longer blurred together. She noticed details, the way light danced on the floor, the way wind sang through the leaves, the smell of bread baking down the street. Life, she realized, was not waiting for the next big thing. It was happening in these small, beautiful, ordinary moments. She had once looked for love to fill her. Now she found fullness in herself. But even in peace, echoes of the past remain. Sometimes, late at night, she would remember how easily she had believed. She didn't resent it. She honored it. That belief, though naive, was pure. It reminded her that she was capable of loving deeply, of giving everything. And that, she knew, was not weakness, it was strength. To love in a world that often forgets how is an act of courage. She promised herself she would never stop loving, But she would choose wisely next time. The heart learns through contrast. To know real peace, it must first endure chaos. To know real love, it must first survive betrayal. She had endured both, and now she stood at the edge of a new beginning. The sky above her seemed wider, the air clearer. She no longer looked for someone to walk beside her. She was learning to walk alone and still feel complete. The emptiness that once frightened her had become freedom. The silence that once hurt her had become calm. She started making plans, not about who she would be with, but about who she would become. She wanted to travel, to see oceans, to stand on mountaintops, to live without fear of being hurt again. She wanted to fill her life with experiences, not expectations. The past had taken something from her, but it had also given her something greater, herself. She realized that losing love had been the beginning of finding identity. The weeks turned into months, and the rhythm of her new life began to settle. The pain no longer roared, it whispered. It lingered only as a faint echo, a reminder of the storm she had survived. She moved with grace now, not out of pride but out of peace. Every morning she opened her eyes to possibility, no longer searching the sky for answers, no longer waiting for messages that would never arrive. The emptiness that once felt unbearable now felt sacred, a quiet space where she could hear her own soul again. She started exploring the world beyond her old routines. She visited art exhibitions, wandered through markets filled with color and sound, stood on bridges watching the city move beneath her. Life pulsed everywhere, and she was part of that pulse again. She realized that love was not just between two people. It existed in everything, in laughter shared with strangers, in the kindness of a smile, in the beauty of being alive. The more she saw, the more she understood that the heart does not stay broken forever. It bends, it bruises, but it rebuilds. There were still moments when the past would brush against her thoughts. A song in a cafe, a scent on a rainy street, a memory rising without warning. But instead of drowning her, those moments reminded her of how far she had come. She no longer ran from them. She welcomed them like old lessons returning for a final goodbye. Each memory had once been a wound, but now they were just stories, and stories lose their power when told enough times. She found beauty in solitude. Evenings became her favorite part of the day, the quiet hour when the sun sank low and shadows stretched long. She would sit by her window, watching the sky turn orange, then violet, then deep blue. In those moments, she felt connected to everything. There was no pain, no longing, only presence. She understood that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about remembering without suffering. One evening, she walked down to the river that had once been their meeting place. The water shimmered beneath the fading light, calm and endless. She stood there for a while, listening to its murmur, and realized she no longer associated it with loss. The river had continued to flow, indifferent to human stories. It carried both joy and grief the same way, forward. And so would she. She smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because she was finally okay with imperfection. The world didn't owe her fairness, and love didn't owe her permanence. Everything beautiful was also temporary, and that was its true beauty. For the first time, she didn't wish to hold on. She wished to experience and let go gracefully. She whispered to the wind, not a plea, but a promise, to keep her heart open but never unguarded, to love bravely but never blindly. Her growth became visible to those around her. Friends noticed her laughter, fuller now, genuine and effortless. Her parents saw her focus returning, her light reappearing. She started helping others who were walking through heartbreak, offering them the same kindness she had once needed. Her words carried empathy, not pity, understanding, not advice. She knew that sometimes people don't need solutions. They just need to be reminded that pain ends. The power of transformation lies not in forgetting the past, but in using it as fuel. She had turned her pain into purpose, her silence into strength. She volunteered at local centers, taught young girls about self-worth, and told them that love should never hurt. Every time she spoke those words, she healed a little more herself. The cycle of pain had ended. The cycle of meaning had begun. There came a day when she looked through her old things, letters, pictures, keepsakes once sacred. She opened the box that had held her memories and felt nothing but gratitude. Those moments, even though broken, had shaped her. She decided to let them go with love. She gathered everything, tied it with a small ribbon, and placed it in a drawer not of mourning, but of closure. The past deserved respect, not regret. That night, she slept without dreams. Her sleep was deep, peaceful, whole. When she awoke, sunlight filled her room, like a gentle affirmation. Life, it seemed, was beginning again, not from scratch, but from strength. She dressed simply, looked at herself in the mirror, and smiled. The reflection no longer showed a wounded heart. It showed a woman reborn through resilience. She didn't need validation anymore. Her peace was her proof. In the following weeks, new opportunities found her. She was offered a position at a design firm in another city, a chance to begin fresh, to step into a world untouched by her old memories. She hesitated for only a moment before saying yes. The decision felt right, like the next page waiting to be turned. She packed her things quietly, carrying not sadness, but excitement. Change no longer frightened her, it thrilled her. On the day she left, she stood by her window one last time, looking out at the familiar skyline. The same view that had witnessed her tears was now seeing her triumph. She whispered a soft thank you. To the place, to the memories, to the pain, for making her who she had become. Then she turned away, walked out, and didn't look back. The journey to the new city was long, but she enjoyed every moment. The landscape rolled past like a moving painting, fields, rivers, hills, all drenched in sunlight. Each mile felt like shedding an old layer of sorrow. When the train reached its destination, she stepped out into the unknown with calm confidence. The air smelled different, the faces were new, but she felt strangely at home. She found an apartment filled with light, decorated it with plants and photographs of places she wanted to visit. She filled her evenings with books, music, and the quiet satisfaction of independence. Her heart, once fragile, had become a steady rhythm of gratitude. The loneliness that others feared had become her companion. Solitude, she discovered, was not emptiness. It was freedom from needing to be understood by anyone else. The city welcomed her with its hum of life, its noise and energy. She watched people hurry through their routines, each carrying invisible stories like hers. The thought made her smile. Maybe, she thought, we all break in similar ways and heal in our own time. Maybe heartbreak is not an ending but a common beginning, the point where we start to truly meet ourselves. As she walked through the streets one evening, the lights reflected in puddles from an earlier rain. The air carried laughter from passing strangers, music from a nearby cafe, and the faint smell of roasted coffee. Life was vibrant, alive, moving, and she was moving with it. The past no longer clung to her. It followed quietly behind, humbled by her transformation. She didn't erase it. She simply outgrew it. Sometimes she still thought about what love could mean now. Not the fantasy she once chased, but the quiet companionship built on truth. She didn't search for it. She trusted it would find her when she was ready. Until then, she was content being whole on her own. The heart that had once broken from betrayal was now a home of peace. And in that peace, there was power, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything, only to exist. Days passed into weeks, and the rhythm of her life became steady, almost serene. The heart that once raced with hope and hurt now beat with calm assurance. She moved through her mornings with deliberate care, savoring the quiet light that spilled through her window. Every breath felt intentional, every step measured with grace. She had learned that living fully did not require perfection, only presence. Each moment held the potential for joy, and she met it without fear. The seasons changed, as they always do. Trees shed their leaves and grew them back again. Rain fell and dried. Sunlight shifted across streets and rooftops, unceasing and impartial. She watched the cycles of life, realizing that her journey mirrored the world around her. Pain and joy were intertwined. Endings and beginnings were inseparable. And within that rhythm, she had found her place. She was no longer searching for love to define her. She was simply living, and that was enough. Her mind wandered to memories, but now they carried no weight. The laughter that had once caused her longing, the warmth that had once caused her ache, now existed as quiet echoes. She did not cling to them. She observed them like clouds drifting across a vast sky. There was freedom in detachment, a profound kind of liberation that only experience can teach. She had discovered that to be whole, one must embrace both loss and hope simultaneously. She found herself smiling often, not at people or events, but at life itself. She noticed small details that previously went unseen. The pattern of sunlight on the floor, the gentle hum of a street lamp at night, the rhythm of footsteps echoing through quiet alleys. Each detail reminded her that beauty exists in the present, not just in dreams or memories. Her heart, once fractured, now contained a quiet clarity. She could see, feel, and understand without being consumed. Work became a source of fulfillment rather than distraction. She threw herself into her projects with creativity and focus, discovering talents she had never acknowledged. Recognition came slowly, but it no longer mattered if it came at all. The satisfaction lay in the act itself, in giving her full attention and effort to something meaningful. The world began to feel like a canvas waiting for her brushstrokes, and she painted it with confidence. Evenings were for reflection. She would walk the city streets, observing lives that intersected briefly with hers. She saw joy and sorrow, triumph and defeat, all passing through the same streets she now walked. The realization struck her. Everyone carries invisible burdens. Her own heartbreak, once isolating, now felt like a thread connecting her to a larger human experience. She was not alone, no one truly is, and that understanding gave her a quiet humility. Occasionally, the memory of betrayal would flicker through her mind. She did not resist it, nor did she allow it to consume her. Instead, she welcomed it as a teacher. It had shown her the value of honesty, the necessity of boundaries, and the strength within herself. The pain had been necessary, not permanent. She understood now that the deepest wounds can leave the richest wisdom, and the heart that survives can do so with both compassion and caution. She began to plan for the future with a calm, deliberate joy. Trips she had long dreamed of were finally possible. Mountains she wished to climb, oceans she longed to see, cities she wanted to wander, all were within reach. She no longer measured life by the presence of another. She measured it by her own engagement, her own wonder, her own growth. Every choice, no matter how small, became an act of empowerment. In time, she noticed a subtle transformation in herself. Her laughter carried a new tone, lighter, freer, without the tremor of past pain. Her eyes held a quiet strength, reflecting the journey she had endured. She understood that true transformation is invisible to the world, yet undeniable to the self. It is the way a river shapes a valley over time, not through force, but through persistence and patience. She realized that love itself had not failed her. It was the false promise that had been given that failed. The world remained capable of real love, and one day it would arrive, not as a savior, but as a companion to the strength she had cultivated. Until that day, she needed no one to complete her. She was complete. She was enough. She was whole. And so, life unfolded before her like a vast, open horizon. Each day carried possibility. Each moment carried choice. Each breath carried freedom. She moved forward, carrying the lessons of the past as quiet guides, not burdens. Her heart, once heavy with betrayal, now sang softly with resilience. She understood that healing is not linear, happiness is not guaranteed, and love is not always kind. But the self, once discovered, is always a sanctuary. The girl who had once believed in fairy tales now believed in herself. She walked with a steady rhythm, a heart open but cautious, eyes wide but discerning. Life would bring challenges, yes, but she was ready. The storm she had survived had forged strength, clarity, and wisdom. Every step she took was grounded in truth, every choice a reflection of self-respect. And in that quiet triumph, she found peace. She understood that endings are not failures, that betrayal is not weakness, and that love, when true, begins with oneself. She no longer sought validation from anyone else. Her life was no longer a story of loss. It was a story of survival, of awakening, of courage. She had been broken, yes, but she was not defeated. She had fallen, yes, but she had risen. She had loved, yes, but she had learned. In the end, she walked forward with steady steps, carrying only what she needed: strength, wisdom, hope, and an open heart. She had become the person she was always meant to be: whole, resilient, and ready to embrace whatever life would bring next. And that, she knew, was the truest form of love there is: love for oneself, the kind that no betrayal can take away, the kind that endures and transforms,